He is a hollow vessel, something less than human. A body without empathy, without remorse. He chose destruction. He chose evil.
The Idaho student murders case is trending this morning as Bryan Kohberger's sister is breaking her silence in an exclusive interview with the New York Times. For over 3 years, the Kohberger family has kept quiet. They avoided interviews, even as Bryan Kohberger pleaded guilty and accepted 4 life sentences for his crimes. Well, now his sister Mel is describing her family's reaction to finding out that her brother is a murderer. Here, detailing the moment, her sister Amanda told her that the FBI took Bryan into custody, which she wondered if it was a prank at first before realizing the truth, then describing a sense of nausea that overcame her. On speculation whether her family had known all along that Bryan was a killer, she says, quote, "I have always been a person who has spoken up for what was right. If I ever had a reason to believe my brother did anything wrong, I would have turned him in." This morning, we're asking, did the Kohberger family know that Bryan was a killer? Let's bring in criminology expert, author, and professor at St. Thomas University, Dr. Debbie Goodman. Happy New Year, my friend. Good to see you. Oh, this case, I know it has broken your heart since it happened. These families still grieving, and now they get to hear something from the Kohberger family. And this sister, Mel, who's speaking out. Dr. Debbie, I know you read the article over and over again. What are your thoughts hearing her speak about this and speak about what she says was not knowing, being stunned, and feeling victimized by many in the true crime community?
Yes, good morning, Julie. Thank you and Happy New Year. I believe the sister Julie. I think that the siblings did not know, and here's why. Because Bryan Kohberger is a psychopathic killer. And again, what does that mean? What are those traits, those qualities, those characteristics? He's manipulative, he's deceptive, he's a pathological liar. So I'm sure the sisters thought that, yes, their brother is odd, he displays bizarre conduct. But Julie, when we, look at the history of these serial killers and the impact on family, the first person that came to mind in this context is BTK, Dennis Rader, bind, torture, kill, convicted of 10 murders. But when his daughter, Kerry Rawson, was interviewed, she was absolutely blindsided, Julie. She described her father as being very devoted, a doting, loving father. And then we go to Gary Ridgway. Gary Ridgway, the Green River killer, his son Matthew said that his father, who was convicted of 49 murders, never missed a thing, never missed any school activity. So I do think that in some way, these families were, not aware of the depths and destruction of this individual. So I don't think the sisters knew. Now, is it possible that the parents knew? I think that's more of a possibility, that within the 6-week window that he left Idaho going home to Pennsylvania from November until his arrest, December 30th, is it possible mom and dad knew? I think that's a greater possibility.
Dr. Debbie, great insight. Digging into the sister's perspective, when I was reading this, I felt for her, and I thought of you because you and I had multiple conversations on this show throughout the progression of that case about all of the victims, and you would talk about, and you do it with many cases for us, primary victims, tertiary victims, how it's wild just how many lives can be devastated by one criminal, members of their own family, and it sounds like, look, they're not immune, they're people too. Mel, she didn't do this, she had nothing to do with this, but yet being abused, by people online and in the public sphere must have been really tough. Would you speak to that, please, in the true crime community and perhaps the need for more sensitivity for everyone?
Right, you're 100% right, Julie. So here's what we know about murder. You know, people take sides, and usually the sides are very emotional, and we'll just talk about two. It's love versus hate. Who do we love? We will forever love the victims, Maddie, Kaylee, Ethan, Zaina, and why we didn't know them directly, but we have such compassion for them, for their families. It will always be so shocking, so devastating to us. And then what's the other side of the coin? Hate. Who do we hate? Bryan Kohberger, the killer. But Julie, in criminology, as you spoke about the three levels, the primary, secondary, tertiary, but we also have a theory that's called differential association theory. And how we interpret that is the different people with whom the killer is associated, and primarily the family. We won't say people hate them, but perhaps they become these sisters and the parents villainized, that people still hold them with disfavor and disregard. But yes, that becomes a very heavy load for them to have to deal with the stigma for the rest of their lives as well.
Definitely. A helpful explainer, Dr. Debbie, you're right. I mean, we see it all the time. You know, people want to, like you said, they want to take sides as soon as the case starts. And, you know, what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. And this sister is a great example of someone who is not condoning any of it. I mean, you know, is disgusted, appalled by it. You know, she can't help that she's related to him. That's not going to change. I wanted to share with you some more things that were said in this interview. For anyone who hasn't read this article, you can read the whole thing again. The New York Times got this exclusive interview with Mel Kohberger. Here are some things we extracted. So friends described how Bryan had been overweight as a teenager and was standoffish. He also endured persistent bullying. His sister never saw him ever be violent. She said he was abrasive, yes, but never violent. The lack of the violent history was one of the reasons why the family found it so disorienting that Bryan was even just accused of the crimes that he ended up pleading to. And in the days before the raid at the Kohberger house, Mel's mom had cut her finger, and she saw that Bryan initially looked, you know, disgusted at the sight of blood, but then helped clean the cut and cover it up with a bandage. So seeming to be squeamish and then persisting through it to cover it with a Band-Aid and be gentle with his mom. Dr. Debbie, what stands out the most to you from some of these takeaways?
Right. Well, again, I do think the sister is speaking with sincerity, Julie. I would have no reason to doubt her and the families. Yes, as a residual effect, they too are victimized. But if we just keep, you know, center stage here on who this individual is and what he is, the psychopath is so about lying and deceiving that even among one's own family members, they simply don't know. It's as if they're hiding in plain view. There they are. There he is. He's this doctoral student. He goes to work. He's seemingly interacting in society. And then there's this asterisk by that statement. And then there's this whole other side to these people, Julie. And the same thing with Dennis Rader and Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer and anybody we would want to name who's come before this individual. They hide in plain view.
Oh. Chilling and fascinating insight from you as always. Dr. Debbie Goodman, thank you kindly.